15 years ago, the sky rained metal and fire. Today, only twisted aluminum remains, choked by thick vines and swallowed by the relentless green of the Amazon. A lone infant survived that fall, but she did not grow up alone. A wounded jaguar found the child in the wreckage and did not hunt. It provided warmth. Monkeys brought fruit, teaching her to navigate the canopy with a speed that defied human limits. Now, she is the jungle ghost. Maya moves through the high branches without snapping a single twig. She swims alongside crocodiles, reading the water's currents as easily as she reads the forest's pulse. She does not speak in human tongues, yet she understands the language of the leaves and the warning cries of the birds. She is the shadow that shifts in the corner of one's eye, the silent guardian born from tragedy. The forest is not just her home, it is the extension of her own body. Where the trees move, she moves. Where the river bends, she follows. She is the pulse of the wild, watching from the heights, unseen and untouchable. The silence shattered at dawn. A mechanical roar ripped through the canopy, followed by the sickening crack of ancient wood splintering. Victor stood at the edge of the clearing, gesturing toward the horizon. His crew drove massive steel blades into the earth, tearing through root systems that had held the soil for centuries. The jungle did not just fall, it screamed. Maya watched from the high branches, her chest tight, jaw set in a line of cold rage. She did not scream back, she moved. As the sun reached its zenith, the first machine died. A fuel line sliced clean, invisible in the thick brush. By afternoon, the heavy chains meant to haul timber vanished into the river. Tools left on stumps were gone by the time workers turned their heads. Panic flickered through the camp like a contagion. Men huddled near the fires, glancing at the dark wall of trees, hearing whispers in the wind that sounded like shifting weight. They spoke of ghosts, of spirits protecting the rot. Victor paced the perimeter, barking orders, but his crew refused to venture deep into the shadows. The forest was fighting back, and the machines were failing, one by one. The storm hit hard, turning the forest floor into a sludge of mud and debris. Daniel stumbled, his compass spinning uselessly in his grip. He turned, and there it was, the jaguar, teeth bared, muscles coiled for the strike. He backed against a tree, chest heaving, trapped. The beast leaped, but a blur of motion intercepted the air. Maya landed between them, her palm pressed flat against the jaguar's snout. The cat exhaled, its growl dissolving into a low, rumbling purr. She did not look at Daniel, only at the cat, before turning to him. "Jungle angry," she whispered, the words rough like grinding stones. Daniel lowered his hands, trembling, and followed as she vanished into the gloom. She led him away from the noise of the machines, deeper into the heart of the wild. She pushed aside a curtain of moss to reveal a cave wall weeping with bioluminescent light. She guided him to a hidden waterfall where the water glowed like liquid silver. Finally, she stopped before a mound of earth and rusted metal, the wreckage of the plane that had brought her here. Vines now served as a cradle, holding the twisted fuselage in a permanent embrace. Daniel looked at the girl, then at the wreckage, and the distance between their worlds finally collapsed. The peace lasted only a breath. A series of deep, rhythmic thuds echoed from the edge of the clearing. Victor was blasting the ridge. The first explosion sent a tremor through the ground that knocked Daniel to his knees. The second was worse. The earth, already saturated by the storm, lost its hold on the mountain. A low rumble grew into a roar that drowned out the machines. Then, the hillside gave way. A wall of mud, stone, and uprooted timber surged forward, hitting the base camp with the force of a tidal wave. Tents were shredded instantly. Steel supports bent like wire. Daniel scrambled toward the higher ground, his boots slipping on the slick, churning debris. Behind him, the camp disappeared into the slurry. Victor had been near the edge, shouting orders, when the ground beneath him sheared off. He slid down the slope, his legs slamming into a tangle of jagged iron and tree roots, pinning him against the precipice. The cliff edge crumbled further, dropping rocks into the dark void below. Victor clawed at the mud, his face pressed against the wet earth, eyes wide as the shelf beneath him groaned. The jungle was no longer whispering. It was devouring everything in its path. Maya stood on the edge of the collapse, watching the man who had brought ruin to her home. Victor gasped for air, his fingers slipping on the wet rock, the cliffside shuddering beneath him. She paused, her muscles tense, the memory of his machines echoing in her mind. Then, she moved. She swung from a thick vine, landing in the mud beside him. She gripped his wrists and hauled him upward, her strength born of years in the canopy. She dragged him onto solid ground, just as the cliff edge vanished into the abyss. Victor lay trembling, alive, while the roar of the slide faded into a low, hollow thrum. Word spread of the girl who walked with the wind, and international pressure turned the forest into a sanctuary. The machines were hauled away, leaving only silence. Daniel returned months later to find the camp reclaimed by ferns and orchids, but he never found her. She was already gone, back into the shadows of the high branches. On moonlit nights, travelers near the perimeter still catch a flicker of movement. She runs alongside the jaguars, a silent guardian watching over the wild. The forest pulse remains steady, and she is its heart, forever tethered to the trees.